Serial communication programming.
Today we'll see about serial communication. The basics of serial communication already we have seen in the last video. Okay, so continuing with that, so we are having the data communication equipment. The data communication equipment is classified as data terminal equipment, which refers to the computers that receive and send the data, and data communication equipment refers to the communication equipment such as modems or the microcontroller. Okay, to connect the DTE and DCE we are using the RS-232 protocol. Already RS-232, about the RS-232 standards we have seen in the last video. Okay, so the basic connection between the DTE and the DCE, that is between the computer and the 8051. Here the receiver is 8051. The basic three connections are the TX line, the transmit data line of the computer. It is connected to the receive line of the microcontroller, and the transmit line of the microcontroller is connected to the receive line of the computer. Okay, so that is the basic connection. Whenever the computer is transmitting the data, microcontroller is receiving the data. Whenever microcontroller is transmitting the data, the computer is receiving the data. DTE is computer and DCE is microcontroller. The ground of both the computer and the microcontroller are connected together. These are the basic three connections. Okay, so that is used to make a communication between the computer and the microcontroller. So to make the connection between the computer and the microcontroller, we are using the RS-232 protocol. So RS-232 connector we are using. So we are using the 9-pin RS-232 connector. Okay, so we'll see about RS-232 DB9 connector. Okay, so the basic three lines. So already I said the basic three lines are receive data line, transmit data line, and the ground. Okay, so these are the basic three lines. The ground, signal, ground. Okay, so these are the basic three lines which are connected together to come to make a communication path between the microcontroller and the computer. Other than that, to ensure the reliable data transmission between the two devices, the handshaking signals are used. So some of the handshaking signals in RS-232 DB9 connectors are given as follows. Okay, so to have the reliable data transmission between the two devices, we are using these handshaking signals. Okay, so the handshaking signal, the first one is DTR, data terminal ready. Okay, when a terminal or a PC is turned on, so after going through a self test, it sends out a signal DTR to indicate that it is ready for communication. So whenever the terminal, that is the computer, is turned on, it sends out a signal DTR to indicate that it is ready for the communication. Okay, so if there is something went wrong with the communication port, then this signal will not be sent or will not be activated. So whenever something happens, then the signal will not be activated. Okay, so this is about the DTR. So the DTR. So next is DSR, data set ready. Okay, so when DCE, the data communication equipment, that is modem, when it is turned on, and then it activates the DSR signal to indicate that it is ready to communicate. DTR is given by the data terminal equipment, and DSR is given by the data communication equipment. Okay, so next signal is RTS, request to send. When the DTE device, that is nothing but the PC, has a byte to transmit, then it activates the RTS signal to the modem to indicate that it has a byte to transmit. Okay, so this is the signal from the DTE to the modem. So next is clear to send, that is CTS signal. So in response to the RTS, so when the modem or the microcontroller has the room for storing the data, that is received, it sends out the signal CTS to the data terminal equipment, that is PC, to indicate that it can receive the data now. this is the signal. This is the signal from the modem to the DTE. So modem is data communication equipment. DTE is nothing but the computer is the DTE. Okay. So that is the clear to send. So whenever the modem has room for storing the data, so it sends out the CTS signal to the PC that it can receive the data now. Okay. So the next is DCD, that is data carrier detect. The modem activates the signal DCD to inform the DTE, that is the PC, that a valid carrier has been detected and the contact is established between it and the other modem. Okay. So this is an output signal from the modem to the data terminal equipment. Okay. So this is the DCD from the modem to the data terminal equipment. The next is ring indicator RI. So the ring indicator, so it is an output from the modem and an input to the PC, which indicates that the telephone is ringing. So this is an output from the modem and an input to the PC, and it indicates that the telephone is ringing. Okay. So these are the handshaking signals. So many of them are not used with the 8051 UART chip. Okay. So what are the general description? It is specified over here. So the other three pins, as you know, to connect between the DT and DC, we require the TXD, that is the transmit data line, and the RXD, receive data line, and the ground. These three are essential to make the connection between the DTE and the DCE. The other six pins are for the handshaking signals, which ensures the efficient data transfer or the reliable data transfer between the DTE and the DCE. So the UART chip will not support these things. Okay, so you need to concentrate only on transmit data line and the receive data line pins. Okay, so this is about the 9 pin connector, RS232 connector. Okay, so next going to the next is 8051 serial port programming in assembly. Whenever I want to write the program in assembly language for serial port communication, what should be followed? Okay, so first thing is about the baud rate. Okay, so we are making the PC to communicate with the 8051. So we should know what is the baud rate of the PC, and also we should know what is the baud rate of the 8051. So first we'll see the baud rate of the PC. Okay, so the PCs, as you know, PCs they come in many versions. The PCs will be having the different baud rates. Okay, so some of the baud rates have been given, so supported by the IBM compatible PCs. Okay, so these are the older versions baud rate. So modern version baud rate supports more than these what has been specified. Okay, the PC's baud rate, one of the thing is it support 9600. So you see here it supports the 9600. So that is what we will be using for the serial communication, the baud rate of 9600. Okay, so this is the baud rate supported by the IBM PC systems. Okay, so if you want to check what is the baud rate supported by your PC, you can go to the settings and check the baud rate supported by your system. Okay, so the baud rate in 8051. The 8051, the transfers and receives the data serially at many baud rates. Okay, the baud rate in 8051 is programmable. We can program the baud rate at different frequencies. Okay, the baud rate is set using the timer 1 in mode 2. The mode 2 is 8-bit auto reload mode. The timer 1 we are using to set the baud rate in the mode 2. Okay, so in the mode 2 we know that the initial value has to be loaded in the TH1 register. Okay, so the initial value, the count value is given to the TH1 register. So whenever the timer is turned on using the set bit instruction, the initial value which is there in the TH1 register is copied to the TL1 register, and TL1 register starts incrementing. Since it's a 8-bit timer, it increments from the initial value till the value FF is reached. Once the FF is reached, in that case the TF flag becomes high. So you know about the mode 2, that is the auto reload mode of the timer. So already you have studied about it. Okay, so to set the baud rate, we are using the timer 1 in mode 2, where the initial value is loaded into the TH1 register. Okay, so the figure shows the relation between the crystal frequency and the baud rate. So see this figure, the figure shows the relation between the crystal frequency and the baud rate. Okay, so the crystal frequency is 11 point the crystal frequency is 11.0592 megahertz. It is divided by 12. It is divided by 12 to get the machine cycle frequency. The machine cycle frequency is 921.6 kilohertz. The machine cycle frequency is again divided by 32 by the UART to get the frequency of 28,800. Okay, machine cycle frequency is again divided by 32. So that is 921.6 kilohertz divided by 32 gives me the result of 28,800. This is the frequency given to the timer 1 to set the baud rate. Okay, so 28,800 is the frequency we are giving to the timer 1 to set the baud rate. Okay, so here the table shows the value that has to be loaded into the TH1 register to set the baud rate. The timer frequency is 28,800 now. Now to set the baud rates, what value has to be loaded into the TH1? The initial value to be loaded into the TH1 is given in the table. Okay, so if I want a baud rate of 9,600, then the TH1 has to be loaded with -3. Okay, so -3 in decimal, which is going to be FD in hexadecimal. So if the TH1 is loaded with the FD, in that case, so when the timer begins, the TL1 register, the TH1 is copied to the TL1 register. The TL1 goes through the states as after FD it is FE, FF and then 0, 3 counts. Okay, so only 3 counts it's going to take. So once the 3 counts are over, then the TF flag becomes high. Again the count value which is there in the TH1 is loaded into the it is loaded into the TL1 register automatically. Okay, you no need to reload it again and again. It is the auto reload mode. Again it is loaded into the register. Okay, so is nothing but for every three pulses we are going to get one pulse. So the frequency is going to be divided by 3. So the input frequency is 28,800. It is going to be divided by 3. So because -3 we are loading, so -3 means FD in decimal. FD means FF minus FD. So plus 1 gives me the value of 3 counts. Okay, so you know in the timer mode 2, so it is FF. Final value is FF minus FD. So plus 1. So because timer when it from FF to F00, when it rolls off, then only the TF flag is going to be high. So that is nothing but, so once for every 3 counts it's going to give one pulse, or the frequency is going to be divided by 3. Okay, so similarly when I want a baud rate of 4,800, TH1 is loaded with a 6. The hex value is FA, so that is FF minus FA plus 1 is going to be 6. So the 28,800 divided by 6 gives me a baud rate of 4,800. Similarly for 2,400 it is -12. For 1,200 it is going to be -24. Okay, so we'll see the example. So now next. Okay, with a crystal frequency of 11.0592 megahertz, find the TH1 value to be loaded in the to get the following baud rate. Okay, so frequency 11.0592 mega, first divided by 12 to get the frequency of 921.6 kilohertz. Okay, so and then that is 921.6 kilohertz is divided by it is divided by 32 to get a frequency of 28,800. Okay, so then So it is the frequency given to the timer 1 to set the baud rate. Okay, so if I want a baud rate of 9600, then 28,800 divided by 9600 gives me the value 3. So that is nothing but minus 3 has to be loaded into the TH1 register. Okay, so and similarly, if I want a baud rate of 2400, then 28,800 divided by 2400 gives me the value of 12. So minus 12, that is nothing but F4 has to be loaded into the TH1. So FF minus F4 plus 1 is going to be equal to 12. So because of which minus 12 we are going to load. So for getting a frequency of 1200, so 28,000 divided by 1200 gives me the value of 24. So minus 24 we are loading. So to get a value 24 in the TH1 register. Okay, so this is how to set the baud rate for doing the serial communication. So next we'll see about S buffer register, that is the serial buffer register. The SCON serial control and serial buffer register are used for serial communication. So first serial buffer register called as SBUF. Okay, so it's an 8-bit register used for serial communication. So whenever the data has to be transmitted serially, the data has to be placed in the S buffer register. And also whenever the data is received serially on the RxD line, then the data will be placed in the S buffer register. Okay, so the S buffer register is used for transmitting the data and also for receiving the data. Okay, so whenever a byte to be transferred via the TXD line, it is placed in the serial buffer register. Whenever the data is written into the serial buffer register, it is framed with the start and the stop bit and then transferred serially via the transmit TXD line. Okay, so already we have seen that. So whenever the data we want to send serially, the data has to be the data has to be formed into a frame. So where I'll be adding a stop bit and the start bit for the 8-bit character data. Okay, so whenever the data is placed in the S buffer register, automatically it adds the start bit and the stop bit, and then the data is sent serially via TXD line. Okay, so whenever uh, uh, the data is received serially by the RxD line, in that case, so the 8051 deframes it. Deframes it means it removes the start and the stop bit, and then it places the data in the S buffer register. Okay, so whenever the data is sent, it is placed in the S buffer register. The 8051 adds the start and the stop bit to that and then sends the data serially on the TXD line. Whenever the data is received on the RxD line, then the 8051 deframes it, means removes the start and the stop bits and then places the received data on the S buffer register. Okay, so the S buffer register, that is the serial buffer register, can be used as any ordinary register. So means that we can use any addressing mode with the S buffer register. So for example, move S buffer comma hash D, where the immediate data is moved to the S buffer register, and also we can use the register addressing mode like move S buffer comma A and move A comma S buffer. So that is about the serial buffer register, which is used in the serial communication. The next is SCON register, that is the serial control register, which is used to control the mode of the operation, and also it is used to program the start bit, stop bit, and the data bits for data framing. Okay, the serial control register is shown in the diagram. The seventh bit is nothing but the SM0 bit, and the sixth bit is the SM1 bit. They can also be addressed as SCON point 7 and SCON point 6, as the serial control register is bit addressable. These SM0 and SM1 bits are used to set the mode of serial communication. SM0 and SM1 00 indicates mode 0, 01 indicates mode 1, and 10 indicates the mode 2, and 11 indicates the mode 3. So usually we are using the serial mode 1, that is SM0 is 0 and SM1 is 1, that is serial mode 1 we are using. SM2 bit, it is used for multiprocessor communication. So the multiprocessor communication, that application we are not using here, because of which SM2 bit is set to 0. So the next bit is bit 4, that is SCON point 4, also called as REN, receive enable. So this bit, so whenever we want to receive the data on RxD line, then this bit has to be set high. If this bit is 0, then the receiver is disabled. So for normally, for to transmit and receive the data, REN has to be set as high. Okay, so receive enable, when high it enables the receiving, when it is set to 0 the receiver is disabled. DB8, that is transmit bit 8, and RB8, receive bit 8. These two bits are not widely used. For all our application we'll set it to 0. TI. TI is transmit interrupt flag. So this TI bit, it is set by the hardware. So this is a very important bit whenever we are transmitting the data serially. When transmitting the data serially, when all the bits are transferred, so at the end the stop bit is going to be transmitted. In that case, the TI bit is set to high by the hardware. So later, so it is clear, so that the S buffer we can go for transmitting the next byte. So the TI is transmit interrupt flag, which is set by the hardware whenever the data transmission is completed, and whenever we are transferring that stop bit, then it is set by the hardware, and it can be cleared by the software by using the instruction CLR TI, so that we can go for transmitting the next byte. The RI is receive interrupt flag, which is used, or which is having the importance whenever the data is received serially. Whenever the data is received serially, the 8051 deframes the data and then it places in the S buffer register. Later, RI flag is set to high, indicate that the data has been received, and it can be cleared by the software. So RI flag has importance whenever we are receiving the data. So this is about the serial control register. So the same thing has shown SM0, SM1 to set the different modes. So usually we are using the SM0, SM1. So that is nothing but 0, 1, that is the mode 1. So in mode 1 we are using the SM0 and SM1. Okay. So this only mode 1 is of interest for you, for us. So SM2 is not used and it is set to 0. Okay. So next, receive enable, as I said. So it is equal to high, indicates that the receiver is enabled. If low, the receiver is disabled. For normal transmit and receive operation, REN bit is set as high. TI bit, transmit interrupt flag. When 8051 finishes the transfer of 8-bit character, it raises the TI flag to indicate that the data transmission is complete. It is ready to transfer another byte. TI bit is raised at the beginning of the stop bit. Okay. So RI bit, that is the receive interrupt flag. When 8051 receives the data serially on RxD line, it gets rid of start and the stop bit and then places the byte in the S buffer register. Later, it raises or it sets the RI flag high to indicate that byte has been received and should be picked up before the byte is lost. Okay. So this is about the serial control